はい、お願いします。Okay, let's everybody stand up and let's we're going to start with the basic sort of principle. Okay, you know, the symbolic of an attack. Okay, okay. Now I could attack him before he attacks, but as he's about to, see that motion? Right? He's going to attack, so I can attack him before. But conversely, you know, I could wait for the attack and do that. But as he's, well, see that feeling right there? There's a feeling of connection. By the time the attack is there, it's, you know, we get caught up in bad situations sometimes. Goes back and forth, there's no winner. Right about here, we sort of say, okay, right from the beginning, this is to show an opening. Okay. This is actually right here to prevent conflict. If we can. If it does, we're skillful here. Okay. But the first motion, but boom, this is prevent the war. So, you know, we're doing it with swords, okay? Now, I want you to give me that back. Okay. Now, I did it with a lot of times seen the defensive art. So then we go here and we do that motion. Okay. So just right here, instead of waiting for the attack, we're going to initiate that motion. That's that, giving that sword point before this can happen. In other words, we're working with the intention. I'm not just attacking him. He has a certain energy coming towards me. But before that energy can, then I go into trying to defend that. We're going to. Okay. And right here, right between. And right here, it could be potentially that. So we want to make sure that it's done without that opening right there. We're showing we're extending before this can come without attacking. There's a lot of stuff there. Now, if he's over here, then you know what we're going to do. We're going to just do that, but the timing of it, okay. As he's raising, extending, not attacking. This isn't attacking before you can attack me. This is really before the war starts. We negotiate something that's better. It's within that particular sense, okay? And you're moving first. He makes the first motion. Even here, your first motion is to be centered and not to be caught this way or to be, you know, or to be defensive. It's not for him. But right here, boom, that motion. So right to right, left to left. So basic ikkyo of a shomen was here. The shomen is not completed. He has the intent to do that, but we're creating almost by moving first, the first part of the raise. We're stopping the war before it starts. We're stopping the conflict before there's conflict. Okay? So let's give that a try. It's the opposite of the way most people think. Now, defensive motion. No, before you need a defensive motion. Let's make a connection and take it into a better direction. Okay, so let's start. Pair up. Okay, now right here. Okay, now we're going to go this way. Okay. Now this is tricky because I might be coming at you, but take my attention. Now, right here, the other hand comes. All right, now get that foot forward. Turn your hip towards me. Okay, see what happens right there? Now walk me forward. Now put your arm out 90 degrees from the body. Okay, all right, good. Okay, now I'm getting up. You're right there, the other way. Yeah. You're showing me a better path. Before I get up and do something, now take the other arm. Now don't step back. That's with the forward foot. Just with the forward foot. Rotate your hip towards me. Good. Now take your step. Stretch me out. Okay. There's a different timing. We're going to extend and take the center right. As he's getting up, there's another. That's very important. Okay, now as he's getting up, we're also right there. There's a potential war. Let's negotiate something better. We're not waiting for the war. Okay, so but it's not you attack. But if I'm thinking about coming distracted, then I'll take the other hand. Good. Now walk me forward. Good. Okay. I put my other hand there. I stretch out without falling on my arm or hitting my shoulder or my face. Okay. Now right there, you're right there again. Go. Okay. And the other hand, now rotate your hip, take your step. Good. Okay. Yeah. So, this it's a little bit like that thing with the sword. See, you're extending to the face. You're not attacking them. But before they can complete their attack, you're right there. You see, it's like Aikido, sort of based on a lot of old movements that are translated into more modern situations. And we don't, real Aikido, you don't want to be waiting for a war and then you got to win the war. Right? We're right about here. Boom. Yeah. We're right about here. We can also do a little bit of a turn, which will do next. But one of the things right here, potential. Okay? So right about the top of the wall. And martially, that's a good move. You see what I mean? But not you got to watch your surroundings. You're not supposed to put somebody's face into a wall. Okay? Okay. 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 What we're doing is we're investigating, in Japanese, it's called saki ni susumu. You move advance first, but you don't attack. It's a funny thing. Again, the situation, there's a war. If the war starts, you have to win the war. But what if you make a move before the war starts and create a better situation than a war? And there's a lot of Aikido that way. Okay? So one of the things we can do, this is a little bit of this motion. Okay. That motion, but right here, boom, boom, boom. Right here, we're connected. Boom. Yeah. Now right about here, we'll just keep on. Come on. So we must be careful right here when we're doing this. There could be potential death here. So right about here, come on. Yeah. You want to close the opening like this. Yeah. Come on. Arm at least 90 degrees here. If this is here, there's a lot of wiggle room. Firm, firm. Don't hold them down. Extend your key true as there. Extend it. I'm creating fly paper. He happens to be a fly. He took a rest. We shouldn't. Okay? By feeling obey. You're not dominating or winning. You're showing a better path. That's very important. Once a war starts, you have to win. But real uchi is dealing with the situation for the war stuff. Most of you see there's so many uchi ikkyo that we're going to extend first without attacking. Okay, all right. I'm going to try that lower. This is get you a little bit more ground and hips in that motion. But the timing is important. Instead of waiting for the attack, we're going to move first before the attack and lead it in a better direction. Okay? So let's keep the same partner one more time. Show them a little bit of the knee working, knee walking, and then take them into that. Okay? Okay. Yeah. 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 One of the things that is important here, okay, is that, it's now it's not a harsh motion to cover that. That's a speak. Okay. Okay. So right hand cover. No. Cover. As you cover that motion, there's this motion. Okay. Now right here, cover that motion. Cover the other hand. Boom. Okay. In all the videos of Shiva, sensei, I've never seen him do ikkyo, sorry, waza, or standing, waiting for the attack. He always initiates. But he's not attacking the attacker. So, the point here, and, it's easier to teach a form. Okay. Nage. But it's important to cover that. Cover it. Good. Now, see, the thing is, you want to be ready, but not aggressive, but you also don't want to be asleep. You see that motion right here? So here. And here, see, there's what's called a ski, an opening right there. So it's very important that we're going to negotiate a peace or withdraw our troops. We want to make sure the situation gets better, not worse. You see? So, the real wars or battles are not fought. I mean, by the time it gets messy, there's armies and everything, but it's really a negotiating table. It's understanding who you're dealing with and making that first move to make the situation better. Not trying to win. You see what I mean? It's mutually better if there's peace. But I want to win. Okay. How many people are going to die, because I want to win? This is more like, the negotiating table is where wars should be fought and presented. So we're doing something. This is different than it's normally taught. But when I watch Shiva Sensei, he never, and when he's waiting, he's drawing the attack out, right? But the shomen uchi sequence, he never waits. He's always extending first, and then the other uchi hand raises up after he raises. If you pay attention to the video, you'll notice that on that. And sometimes with the attack, he draws the energy out with more of a yin posture. But then very quickly, he lets the attacker know that's not a good idea. You see, so, the uchi is very different. You have to be on point, but the thing is, you don't want to be aggressive, but you don't also want to be stupidly withdrawn and have an opening. You see what I mean? So it's training us to deal with situations. If I'm too lax, I let the situation get out of control, then I got to fix it. The better to see something that needs my attention and deal with it before it gets out of control. 2 ounces of energy solves the problem. Later, I need 4 tons of energy to fix it because my timing was bad. Okay, you don't want to do that as a negotiator, in terms of national peace and whatever, right? Okay, better that We had stricter mandates before the pandemic went out of control. You see what I mean? There's an area where the uchi that our sensei talked about was more than just the actual physical practice in the dojo. It was about understanding how governments should work and all the way down to where we work best. And so becoming more in tune. The martial principles are important, but they're not to win. They're to make things better. Okay? But we are also polishing ourselves in the process of it. Okay? Okay. Okay. Everybody stand up for a second. Let's stretch the legs. Okay? Okay. So everybody remain standing. Let the legs stretch out of it. We may do more, we may not. But the 20 Wada is good because you develop your hips. Okay, you develop your hips and ground. If you do too much of it, you ruin your legs. Doesn't work. Okay. So just move around. Just make sure everything's in order. If we're doing this on the ground and your body says stand up, stand up. Don't think you have to gut it out down there because you know that you're strong or something. You and your body is your body's a tool, your mind's a tool. You need them both. If you ruin your body, you may understand it totally, but your mind, the body can't do what the mind is giving instructions to do. But in moderation, the movement down there creates more ground, and the timing is not up here. It really is boom. This motion is not that. First physical motion comes from here, but the first movement comes, you call mind or consciousness. You perceive the situation, and before the attack comes, you create a different scenario. Okay? That makes sense? So, this is the exact opposite way that this technique is practiced, because we wait for the attack and then do the ikkyo. Okay? But what happens, is a lot of times, Aikido is seen as you wait. But one of Wo Sensei's best students was the home hitter Sadaharu O. And he told Mr. O, he says, learn to wait because he's too quick out here. But he didn't tell him to wait for strike 3. You see what I mean? And the more Mr. O learned to wait, the faster his bat was because he got more of the center. And then it was less, I have to beat the pitcher. No, I have to win over this craziness in my own head. So within that, his first act is to find his center and core at a deep level, which means he had to learn to wait. He didn't wait to strike 3. Okay? So this is a little different. And, this is a very important lesson. Even, for example, if he's coming in to grab here, I wait for that. You can initiate this. In other words, here, he pushes me, I'm off balance. Okay? Here I have a triangle, so boom, I can also. But my bearing is that, okay, I understand my vulnerability. I don't want to stand this way, give myself back. If I'm in a triangle, I can step back, change. Or conversely, I can move to the side. So, offering here gives you an advantage. Now here, this is a little different. It oftentimes seen in striking motion, but here, boom. Both hands move together. Your feet, your hips are coordinated. That's one motion, not one move, which means your body and your mind are unified. And they're unified around an intention to deal with this before it's an attack. There's already energy coming your way. There's an intention. There's a possibility of war, let's say. But once the war starts, you have to win. The true victory is creating a different scenario than the war. Creating something that's harmonious and mutually beneficial. Okay? One thing that he learns to do is he learns to cover that opening. Boom. Boom. Older style. But here, boom. Now he puts his hand down, he extends, doesn't fall, doesn't hit his face. If you do this to somebody who doesn't know how to receive the motion, you can really hurt somebody. Part of our program is learning how to train in a way that is enjoyable. We practice martial skills, but also we're working towards what a sensei called ikkyo. Not just doing the physical movement, dealing with an attack better, but learning to perceive the situation and without attacking, you extend and initiate and create a different situation than dealing with an attack. Okay, and for me, you see what happened initially on this motion, pre-World War II, guess what? I'm going to come and block it. Okay? It was the attacker that threw. That was the old style. Okay? That's the old style. In other words, it wasn't like he's going to come in, so I'm going to do ikkyo. It's like, boom, he blocked. Boom, I take the ribs. Maybe here, boom, you break the arm. You see, that was the old style. Obviously, if you broke your partner's arms, you couldn't train, so you didn't. But, you know, the intention was much more martial. Okay? And then the war came, and Japan lost. And, you know, a lot of aggressiveness was kind of like, well, you know, Aikido was okay. It was first martial art in 1948. That was okay by the occupation, meaning us, to be practiced. Why? Because it was about peace. But Osensei changed. Instead of attacking first and doing the technique, you initiated the movement. Okay, by the time the attack is coming, you have to win. But can we move first, train our perception of ourselves from somebody who is waiting to deal with something, to somebody who's proactive, not attacking, not an attacker, but efficient. Okay? And so, you know, we're learning right now that, you know, pandemics and political situations get out of control like that. So if you're a leader, it might be fun to think you're going to be this or that until you get the position. Okay. Now here, for example, you know, he's, so like this, boom, you have to be a bit more proactive. As his intention to attack is there, you are already proactively moving, advancing to create a different scenario. And when I do that, I'm training for somebody who's conditioned to wait for this, not somebody who's going to get them first, but somebody who is, you know. And here, just does not wait for them to stand up and gather themselves. Right about here. And full technique. This arm is 90 degrees, knee, not sloppy. Here, move around, okay? Toes are tucked. Don't put your weight in the pin, okay? Go. Okay. Extend your feet through his arm. Come on. You're putting in, it's not in the sense where you're beating him. We're working together to negotiate something better than a war. And I might be a little ahead of him in the math department. And he says, you know, I can live with that. As opposed to I've been beaten. You see what I mean? It's very important. That's the Aikido spirit. When you're thinking about winning, the whole world goes crazy. So we need to find better alternatives. We need, as a world, as a nation, as bipartisan groups, to learn how to unify. We may have a different opinion, but we can work together. And that's why Sensei created Aikido. You see what I mean? If we look at it that way. So what we're doing is initiating the move. Okay? Very important. Oh, that was an opening. I'm waiting for the situation. Right here, the Aiki happens in a flash. It's like an act of nature. But it's coming through you in an integrated mind-body state. There's an intention that you stand there to initiate, not attack, and to create harmony. That's very important. Other than that, it becomes a Zen-up system. That's not what our sensei created. Okay, let's go over that one more time. Let's go back to standing. Okay, well, go for it. Beam of light. Beam of light. Even though the elbow is a beam of light. A beam of light. You're showing a better way. I want you right away, in total intention, mind and body with it, that you're going to move first to create a better way, not to win. And if I'm this way, I'm negotiating a horrible peace that's going to have a lot of holes in it. Okay? Boom. You feel energized. I feel energized. We both win. We're both part of a harmony. There's something for you in it. You get to stretch out, feel that, in some sense, attention and intensity. You are part of a negotiation that's going to be better for both parties. You see what I mean? And that's the Aichi spirit. You know, why isn't this more taught? Because it is harder to teach. It's easy to teach a form where you go this way, okay? But, you know, dealing with police officers, you can't go in there and gun everybody down. But you also can't wait for everybody to be dead in a gunfight. You see what I mean? There's a proactiveness you sort of have to have, you know, even as a person in authority. You see what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, there's an area where it's pretty easy to say, well, I got to win. Yeah, once there's a war, you got to win. You see what I mean? You know, it's in your self-interest to win the war, but it's better that we negotiate something better so there is no war. And it's a win-win. That's a very different scenario, right? Okay? So anyway, keep going, okay? So I want to see that light. You see what I mean? Boom. You make a statement about who you are, what you stand for. You're not attacking him. You're trying to beat him, but you are, boom, your mind and your body are in some sort of accord around this intention. You're not waiting for the attack or the war or the pandemic. You can put a lot of things in there. And if we had more of this consciousness, we wouldn't have over 600,000 dead or whatever it is, you know. Egos get in the way and, you know, the world suffers. Okay? All right? Cool. Yeah, that's good. See, you're decisive without dominating him. You see that feeling right there? That's good. That's Aichi. You see the difference right there? Okay.
We tie by the law.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have to protect.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, it's called protect. Yeah, okay, keep going. Okay. Direct. Not confrontative. Keep that foot forward. This one, yeah. Now, this is like giving up. This is a beam of light. You're going to shine that into my face. Boom. See that?
Yeah.
Good. Now, the other hand comes in. It looks like what you're going to twist the arm, but this is also light. Boom. Then you rotate your hips, you walk in. Okay. That timing is very important. Okay. If you're a little sleepy, like go here, there's an opening right there. So you have, relax your shoulder. There's that instant when my intention is to move on you. Okay? By the time I move on you, it's a confrontation. You better win. But can you distract, move, and create a better scenario? Okay? All right? And that's where the ikkyo is. So you measure yourself and the timing of it and everything like that. If you sit down, he grabs my, but, you're proactive. Your key is going out. No, I have to do it. Technique as he's holding it. The key is moving out. You create a better situation, then, I got to win. Okay. All right. And so, there's a lot about developing, the chi is a very common word in Japan, but it's about your spirit. So you want your spirit to be able to be very positive, be honest with people. I'm trying to get it now. All right. Hi, how are you? Communication. Somebody knows where you're about right from here, slightly different motion. All right. But, you put your energy out like it's the light. And, as you're doing that, you polish yourself. Your mind clears, your body does what your mind says it's supposed to do. Okay? Now, if he is coming in this direction, we can also go that way. But what am I doing? I'm putting out more of a receptive. It's like a tractor beam. You see what I mean? I'm not waiting for the attack. I'm organizing it a different way. So in that way, it's a mistake to think, well, I can't get off there. Okay. So even that, yeah, I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. Keep talking until you realize what you're saying needs adjustment. You see what I mean? Don't dialogue with an idiot because you're better at it. You'll become one when you try to reason with somebody stupid. Keep your center. Let them spiel it. Ideally, some people never realize how dumb they are. It's not your problem. But it is if you try to change them. Let them realize how stupid they are. Okay. Okay. Keep going. All right. Yeah. Okay. Now this is you're sizing them up. So I'm sizing you up. I'm sizing up. That means that it comes to start getting ready for the final. Here, the cover. Okay. I'm sizing up already. We're gonna move. As you're getting up, cover. Boom, good. The hardest one is the first one, because you're moving, boom. Right? Now here, for example, that motion is to make a connection. No. You feel his weight, you start to get in. No, you're sending light out. Okay. And here, what I'm really doing, by twisting and sizing up, I'm blocking my inner light. Yeah. And so that whole thing, if he happens to grab both wrists, boom, you shine the light up. look out, or whatever. Now, this is different without being very aggressive. You're proactive. Let's wait for the war to get worse. Let's wait till 600,000 people are dead. It doesn't work. What is it? It's egos. Right? And, certainly there's a diplomacy factor in that, but it really comes down to people being egotistical and asleep and letting situations spiral out of control. Right. And this is a different spirit. You see what I mean? Yeah. And, in a lot of ways, it's totally the opposite of the way it works. The will wants to form. And then you see the form, you recognize that you have a position in society that's supposed to be a certain way. No, you break that mold. You move first. That's why I was saying, you ever feel a sense of waiting for shomen ikkyo? And he always moves first. Then the uchi's hand goes up. But it's hard to teach. It's really hard to teach because, it's easy to teach the forms, nobody attacks. But then we get sizing up and we're trying to figure out how to win in that situation. You see? The hardest one is the first one. To come this way. Now, martially, this is not a bad move. Yeah. But not in class. Other than, you see what I mean? He still does not have to be a throw.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But you move first. And the sense is your spirit. Doesn't mean you go poking people in the face. Right? So this one guy, he wanted to, but he works, and we go like this to hit people in the face. It's like, no, the dojo is where you practice that. And if you hit somebody in the face, let me see if this works. If it don't.
Yeah.
Right? Because what we're trying to do is, realizing a lot of this is we wait for things. We wait for, you wait, and, you have to size me up and you have to throw me. You see, in that moment, you assume a role and I assume a role. And what happens is, we all have roles in society. On the other hand, you sort of have to find your own sort of truth, your own light. That's a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do a little bit. Walk. Exam. You're walking. You're walking. Here, if I go this way, no, here, right to right, left to left. But you're walking. Okay. So I'll get that foot forward. So right about here, get the elbows, turn the right arm, walk. Okay. So you're going forward in that motion. Okay, sometimes down here, you have to go back. No, there's negotiating table. It's his turn to talk first. Right? You have to be okay with it. Well, come on, do what you have to say. Now, on the other hand, do you realize where that takes you? Don't dialogue with an idiot because they're better at it than you are. And they'll take you down to that level. But sometimes you gotta let somebody speak, and they may not be terribly aware that what they're saying is not great. It's their truth, and that's hard. But be gentle. But more. Okay. Yeah. why you got to keep advancing. Okay? Yeah. Most important thing is there's an on switch. Now, he may grab your hand, but you have an on switch. Okay, it's your spirit. Okay, so you can turn that light on, and when you turn the light on, boom. Remember, the other hand is there too. Both hands, boom, good. All right, go. Turn it on, both hands, and you are part of that beam now. So you're part of that beam. When you're walking, you're riding that beam of light. Okay. So then now get this foot forward. This foot forward. Rotate your hips and then take your step. Yes, that's it. Okay. Now you're going to do that on the other side with your left. Both hands. Turn your hips. Walk in that beam. Okay. Right. So right now, this is happening kind of quick for you. But as you get your center, things slow down a bit without you getting lethargic. When things start to slow down, you're even more on point. Okay? Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. It's alive, it's in the moment, it's decisive without being confrontational. You see what I mean? That's very important. You know, in some sense, you know, the aikido is not showing weakness. It's showing true strength. It doesn't, you know, it's who you are. It's not, I have to win to be somebody. You see what I mean? But you're sharp and on point, and the movement is smooth. It's harmonious. And so, you got to feel for that. And then, you know, I mean, the ideal thing would be, we pick up situations before they happen, and we create something better than being on the receiving end of it. Okay? Yeah, that doesn't mean we win. That's the other thing. Doesn't mean that we win, per se. But the victory is a win-win. You see, he feels different when he's in a situation where the technique is done properly. It's a joy to be part of that, isn't it? Right? And you know, so that part of it is very important. It's being awake. You know, when I'm waiting, I'm playing a role. And there's we're doing shomen, uchi, ikkyo, but we're doing it from the other side. And this is again what's tricky. Is if you watch our sensei, you know, a lot of the stuff he did is not just being taught, because what he was doing was martially very, very sound. But it's hard to teach that. So that's why, you know, we have this, and then we have the uchi, nage. Ideally, uchi and nage are just subdivided. They don't really exist. It just is the in the moment ikkyo between two people. Doesn't matter whether uchi or nage, although to some degree, you know, what it is. When you create roles and you create, you know, it's easier to teach off the strike to do but to advance first, to move before the attack with a proper spirit, that's hard. You see what I mean? That's very hard. Okay. 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 So that's what you call the entering irimi version. The Japanese also they call it omote, because you're moving forward to the front of your partner. Okay. Now that particular is a little late. But one thing about, you know, even if he's coming in, your extension is out there first. He's attacking. I'm going to experiment with a technique. So, boom. And then you try to, on the next one, rebound and boom. Just getting your extension out there, not to block and do the technique, but just to, and I mentioned to a couple of you, you are light, okay? You see grabs, that's light. It's an on switch, light. Now, one of the things, there's a beam of light, you're walking in that beam. Okay? When I first got the Shingu, I didn't hear it particularly from him, but one of the people said, well, Hikaguchi Sensei said, you want your key to be like light. Light's light. It illuminates. You get a dark room, you just strike a match. It's not dark anymore. That's light. It's a very dark world. Huh? And part of this, your whole body is part of that beam. See, if I'm here waiting for him and reacting to him, no, the whole room, you're filling the whole room with light. And certain other things, you see the darkness coming. If the light's turned on. If you're walking in the darkness, you might not see something dark coming at you in the dark. So, part of the ikkyo spirit, you have an on switch. And we all get caught up in our own pettiness and ego and everything like that. But say, okay, it's just call that misogi. Clear. Understand your purpose in motion. The ikkyo is to illuminate us, to show us our own openings in terms of the way we think and behave, so we can go towards a more efficient level of being. And in that more efficient place, we seek not to wait for the war, but to move first and create something better than a war. Or wait for the attack, which means you need to win with this technique. And you create a better pathway. So right here, for example, what's going to happen? What is it doing? So you're bearing, and caught up in all these details, they're important. Okay? If it's your second class or third class in the dojo, yes, you pay attention where your hands and feet go. But if my thinking gets too small, caught up in all these little details, I don't see the war coming. And once that war starts, I'm thinking like everybody else, I don't know how in the world it's going to end, other than the fact that I have to win. Okay? But the Aikido is very different than that. No, he's play acting, but right about here, it's like boom. You see the darkness coming, but you have to have your own light. Now, what we can do, this is the other one, the shomen uchi, irimi, nage. Now, this is more flexible, but you never wait. Have your light on so that you see the darkness coming. And when possible, you initiate the movement. Now here, for example, you can turn in and attack. Okay, so it's very important. You put him in that light. You don't try to escape him. You try to bring him into the light. You see what I mean? But you have to have that own on switch. And that's being right here with your mind clear Your body flexible, able to implement what your mind, your intelligence says, and you're training that intelligence to go work towards the ikkyo, which is, you win over yourself. Winning over yourself is really dealing with all the stupidity in my head that's been conditioned in me since I was a kid. Okay, and that's a constant battle. Okay, but it's a joyous battle because what you're working towards is creating harmony. Emotionally, we're waiting, he's coming this way. He's about to come in. But when possible, boom, we go, come on in. Okay, we're creating a safe environment for both of us. He gets thrown there, but he's part of a yin to yang to yin harmony. Okay, not a war. Okay, since they would say fire, water, water, fire. They don't, fire doesn't burn water off, and water doesn't drown fire. Fire, water, water, fire. They ignite each other. They create something through a harmony that is potentially there, even though it's fire to water, water to fire. And so he said, that's where the ikkyo is. And you're standing right in that zone with your mind clear as possible. Your body relaxed, able to implement your mind's design. And your spirit is that intention, which you're also polishing. In other words, here you're initiating before the attack. Okay, this is the other one, shomen, uchi, irimi, nage. Okay, now just as, for example, here, he went with the other hand. I created something else. Okay. Yeah. This is the potential. So right here, very important. Okay. Now, for example, here, this is the potential. All right. Conversely, what you're moving here, this is the potential. So more, come on in. And here he says, okay, I can still stomp his foot, something like that. But come on in. You have a certain positive gravity there. You create a safe space for yourself. And ideally, when you're in that safe space, keep the circle around that safe space and tied to that safe space. That's what makes Aikido kind of a revolutionary art. We really need a revolution in the world right now, but it's not about a war. It's about really starting to think about, and to intuit what Shibo Sensei is trying to impart to the world. Aikido is much more relevant today than it was when he was alive. Unfortunately, when he was alive, he brought his energy up. And so you could see it if you had an eye for it. Okay? So we have to sort of, we have to remember to turn that switch on, to turn the light on. Now this one we're initiating, we're moving behind with the irimi nage. So the technique is the same as if somebody attacks you, go into the form of the irimi nage. But the situation is for you to develop. You can develop a better form. Okay, but developing a better you is really polishing yourself. Your mind clears. Your body is relaxed, able to implement the design that your mind is working to recognize. Your intention, your spirit is towards ikkyo, not towards winning. But it's a win-win. You do not lose. You see what I mean? Those are all very important because then we develop a better level of ourselves through the training. And ideally, we become better at dealing with what's going on in the world and our place in it. Okay? As Sensei said, make the world better bit by bit. And so the bit by bit is us. We get better, the world gets better. You say, oh, the world is so. Yes, it is. But the challenge is not to go into the negativity, but to actually take the task of understanding what ikkyo is. Okay, ikkyo. Ki is in harmony with itself. Fire and water. They don't fight and destroy one another. They invigorate each other. That's spirit. That's ikkyo right there. Not the way the world looks at itself in all its subdivisions. Okay? So, irimi nage, most of you know the move. He doesn't yet, so we'll kind of work with him a little bit. Okay? Everybody else change partners. Okay, now right here, let's stand up. We're going to start out the same way. With that foot forward. You're going to initiate, which means you flip the switch. You come to class all this way, but when you come class, you flip the switch. And likewise, you know, in every day, you can flip the switch too. Okay, but now you're moving behind me with your back foot. No, that's what you did before. Okay, so boom, now step behind me and take my collar. Good. Okay, now right here, that's the vulnerability. Rotate your hips. Don't rotate your hips. Good. Now you put you you're in a safe position. I'm in a safe position. Okay. Now you're going to let go here, and you're going to raise. Don't try to move me. Rotate your hips towards me. Good. You take a step. Good. That's the motion. Most people, what happens? They feel the weight of their partner. They tend to try to move that way. You're going to try to move that weight with your arm and shoulder and chest, but rotate your hip. When you're doing that, you're in a flow. You're dealing with your partner, not so much their size and weight. You're dealing with their spirit, which doesn't weigh anything. Okay? So, I'm about to do something, then you got to react to it, move first. It might be diffusing the situation with some comedy or something, or just saying, stop. Right? Now you're stepping behind me and taking my collar. Okay, that's it. Over here, this foot. Good. Now, what I want you to do is rotate your hip. Don't step. Good. Now you're in a much safer position. Okay? All right? Now turn your hips some more. Okay. Now counter rotate your hips. Good. Now step behind me. And that's really it. Now it's going to take you a little bit of time where that's done without a lot of thinking. Okay. When we're thinking, we're usually confused. When we're thinking old patterns, we think they're right, they may not apply to the situation. So, in Zen, they call it no mind. It doesn't mean your mind is vacant, it's just clear. So the movements will become clear to you as you train. Don't try to think about it too much right now. As your mind clears, your body moves freely. Okay? When your mind and body are on the same page, something called spirit starts to come through that. And that's the intention. The intention is to move forward. So you're not waiting for the attack or the war. You're going to create something better with your partner. Your partner, gets fire, burns water off, and water puts fire out. No fire and water in icy terms. Fire ignites water, water ignites fire. It's a win-win. Yeah. In other words, you get two political parties. They don't have to try to win. They can work together. And sometimes people just get too caught up in their egos to see that. All they want to do is impose their ego on somebody, and then the world suffers. So, since it was enlightened, you say, look, we're going to create a better world here. Which is, but we do it bit by bit. We create ourselves to be better. We create the world to be better. If you pass on some of this to somebody else, then the world's even better. If you try to change the world all at once, probably not going to change, but we can change ourselves. Okay? And that may take work over a while because we have ideas in here that maybe need readjusting. Okay? Okay? Keep going. Okay. Now, one of the things I want you to do, when you're moving towards it, already there. Okay, I'm moving towards it. You want to be already there. You know, it's a different mindset. Okay, where are the warriors need? They need a bunch of guys that get the ball to Curry. Not like, we know we got to get it to Curry, as it was last year, right? And he had to pretty much do it all. But we know we need to do that. Boom, he got the ball. You see what I mean? That's key. Knowing what you got to do and stumbling to get there, your key is going in too many different directions. Okay? In other words, right here, okay, now, the shoulder. Again, there's a negative with muscle. It's a dark room. You turn on a light. It's not dark. You flip a switch. That's what that is. Only that we can be in darkness, kind of roughing around and depending on where we're wired, having a great time or just being stupid. So, it's mainly stupid fun. Okay. So right about here, boom. Now at that point, you're there. So you, when you're raising that hand, you're already moving behind me. Good. Now rotate your hip. Don't step. Now you see you created a nice safe space. So if you step. See, I can turn in here. Yeah. So each of these moves, you know, is to some degree, you know, your mind has to say, okay, why didn't that play work? Well, you know, basically you're out of position. And why didn't Steph get the ball? Because you were standing in stupid space. And, you know, all the passing angles were bad, so it was intercepted. So in the future, don't stand there, stand more here, and let everybody else create a better space. But if you stand there, he's not going to get the ball. Because, you know, okay, so right here, okay, now, when that hand is moving, you're moving. Okay, now that foot, don't want to step into that. Your back is moving when your hand's moving. Good. Now, this is the potential opening. Rotate your hip and step. Good. Now don't step there. If you step too quick, step. Yeah. Okay, so it's horror movies where you say, okay, there's a werewolf, let's lock the house. And you realize you locked the werewolf in. You say, you don't want to do that. Okay, so you're moving. Boom, now turn your hip, don't step. Good, now you created a safe space. Now you take your step, rotate your hip, my corner rotates, and then you take your step. It's not that hard. It's just the dialogue going on in his head that interferes with that. You see? So, you know, running over myself is really realizing that this dialogue that's going on here tends to be kind of a nullifier. I get distracted, I put attention on things that are not important, and I don't see what's right in front of me because I haven't turned the light on yet. You see? Okay? Okay. Okay. So let's look at, you know, the shomen, uchi, irimi, nage. Okay. Songs of the shomen, uchi, ikkyo. Those are, again, I watch our sensei sometimes, you know, he appears to wait for the attack, but he's not. It's called more, you know, he's drawing that attacking energy out so that he can redirect it. That's very different. Now it's a form, we wait, we go here, we do the technique, okay. Just because you're doing the same form doesn't mean that you're being trained in maybe what he wanted. Okay, so this is a little bit more of a radical class. Okay, we're not going to change the world by saying, oh, okay, you don't wait for the attack. But that doesn't mean you attack first. You see, that's the tricky area. You move to draw that attacking energy out, and then you create something better than winning over somebody who attacks you. That's the ikkyo. The ikkyo is, you know, since they had a, his sort of his authentic speech is standing on the floating verge of heaven. It's the plum blossom that blooms in 3,000 worlds. It's the shout of joy. So what he was talking about, if you kind of go through that, sounds like a pretty trippy place. You see, beauty, truth, harmony, love. I don't think it gets better than that. And then you look at the world and go, what happened? Well, the problem is we haven't. If you look at the global warming, what happened? We haven't. Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, the answer for everybody to get separated. No, it's not the answer, right? But it's to modify the behavior, to look at the situation, and not wait for it to get any worse before we start to kind of take measures to improve it. And guess what? We're part of that equation. For that to get better, we have to get better. Okay, and sometimes the bigger the challenge, it just means you've waited too long. But there's no such thing as giving up, unless you want to. And you give up a lot of times, or I give up. Don't let the world situation bring me down. When I look at things and think, this is hopeless. I thought that for 4 years during the last president. I just said, just crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. You just let the world pull you down. Okay, but again, as I said, just make the world better bit by bit. And I think what he meant is you or I get better, the world gets better bit by bit. And if we get any slice of enlightenment here, we share that with other people, they get better. Then the world gets better bit by bit by bit by bit. There's that whole thing about the 100th monkey. If some monkey starts to do this, nothing can happen. 2 monkeys do this. All of a sudden, 100 monkeys do this. Then the collective field of monkeydom, all monkeys start to do this. So it's not that, it's not that hard. If we could get somebody said, if you got 20 pretty awakened beings in the world would change. I don't think you have to take 100 enlightened people. But what's hard is that, a lot of times we tend to go back and forth on things. And the IT is very flexible. But there are certain things you don't want to go back and forth on. You want to be flexible with it. But you don't always your focus on it. Okay, we've lost our focus on the environment, so guess what? We're burning up on the West Coast and the East Coast, and the whole world is crazy. They're really talking about, the Gulf Stream kind of going, if the Gulf Stream goes that way, climatic, the whole world's going to go nuts. Why is that? Well, it's because of us. Okay, now we can get really down on that. We can say, what's the challenge now? We're going to make better decisions if it's only just me, and maybe I can actually influence other people in a good way. Okay? Warriors had a horrible year. Steph Curry had the most valuable player year. And so, what Draymond Green said, as bad as we were, he uplifted us. And somebody said, well, how did he do that? Oh, he did it because he was a champion. He outworked everybody. He set an example for the younger people that they couldn't meet, but they saw him doing it, so they got better. They didn't get better enough if you start to go into what you really want, But yeah, in that way, that was probably his best year, given the teammates. Right? He had basically won, and everybody else was like, well, he got him pretty close. And so, that's power of one. It starts with us. Okay? And the Aikido is something that is very important. It's not about, how you're going to do against MMA. MMA can exist. It's just a side sport that somebody decided they were going to have to. It's another thing where people make money by selling advertising time and everything. And some people get, they get money from it, so that's fine. But we're in a different universe. The Aikido universe is very different. Okay? In fact, I was with an MMA guy once. We were doing a demo at the Oakland Coliseum. Remember that one? And yeah, and what was kind of interesting that was I got along great with him. Everybody else there treated him. Because they were more traditional, more like he was MMA, And he said, what's Aikido? I said, this is Aikido. So we kind of traded a couple things. He didn't try to beat me up or anything. And he said, yeah, kind of interesting. Bruce Lee, for example, apparently really liked Aikido. Yeah, even Bruce Lee, a father of MMA. No, he would look at MMA and go, because he was about development, right? He was doing that stuff to touch his own potential. He did it through maybe a slightly different form than we have. But that was no stupid guy. Okay. And so, the Aikido, just switching it, where you're initiating the movement as opposed to getting caught up in the form of it, is where a lot of development can happen. Why don't people do this more? Because it's hard to teach. You have to get some individual attention. Then you have to kind of really shift your focus from maybe what most people do. Okay? Let's stand up before our legs kind of fall off. Okay? And okay. Now, for example, here, we fall into a pattern. He's going to attack and we go that way. Or I fall asleep and I go, or, I go this way and, then he gets real heavy and I'm kind of caught here and what do I do? But what if spirit to spirit right from the beginning, both of us work a different path. Okay? And that's what we're aiming for. Now, one of the things right here, there are specifics. For example, if I go this way, it creates an opening. If I go this way, it creates an opening here, especially elbow. Right? I used to get elbowed in the teeth, but he just sent there every day. Because I go like this, and I go, I was quick enough that he didn't hit me. He used to do that. Okay. Then, but I was here, and he elbowed me right in the teeth. Fortunately, I still got him. Okay. But right about here, all right, now you can still turn into me. So you have to rotate your hips without taking a step. See, if I take a step too quick, he turns into me. He cuts the angle. So if I turn the hip here, come on, now I can take my step and then I can counter rotate the hips. Now I got that step in. That's it. There's not that much there, except when the dialogue is going, you're in pattern, that just repeat themselves and repeat themselves. We keep doing the same stuff over and over. You see what I mean? Then the world just goes in that down spiral. We've got Afghanistan, we've got the pandemic, got a whole bunch of stuff. The world's a mess. And then you can say, well, I'm going to die here because to feel better. I apologize if I could bring you the world into this class. But the way they were explained to me, more important than feeling better is being better. There's a difference. If you know that you are better, you're in a better place to deal with your feelings, positive and negative. Okay? So this particular movement, what is it about? Having struggled with things for 50 plus years, Okay, 1, I'm late. 2, I fall into a pattern. 3, boom, initiate that motion. But I fall asleep here. Rotate the hip. Now you can take a step, and there's this, he weighs a lot, rotate, counter rotate your hip before you step. That's not hard. But with this dialogue and old patterns going on, that's almost impossible. But it's not impossible to do. It's I'm running into me and making the situation impossible. Okay? So I fall back on old patterns because that's easy to do. I don't have to give up. I don't have to think different thoughts. I don't have to be different to create a better world or a different situation. And when you're doing IT, you are looking at yourself, and you might not feel better, but you will be better and just able to deal with your feelings better. And in that way, you will feel better. You see what I mean? Yeah, I know it's a little bit of a kind of twist of logic there. Okay? Okay? So what we're after, the hardest one is the first one because I get into old patterns. Okay? But boom, now right about here, if he's going to elbow, start rotating the hip. And right about here, right, he's going to turn in, I'm going to rotate the hip. I'm not going to take that step. Now I take that step so I can counter rotate the hip. Then I take another step. Is that hard? It's only hard because this dialogue is going on in my head that separates my mind and body from my spirit, which is intention. And we are polishing that intention. If we follow those senses, our intention is IT, it's win-win. Okay? I hope that's clear. Okay? The clarity, however, must be in us. So it's translatable into the motion with your partner. Okay? And if I think I know it, I sort of know it, that's fine. But you're constantly polishing through your mind clearing, your body becoming more flexible. You get to the spirit, the intention. Okay? And you don't have to do this perfect today. But if you're experiencing a sense of clarity, that's the important thing. So, I gave you a couple of pointers. I'm going to have you go out there again. I wish that had been explained to me. Okay. Initiate. As you're moving, not just the hand, but you're already moving along with the hand. Right about here, you can pause, but you are constantly rotating. Don't take that step too quick. Now, fully rotate, you create a safe space. Then you can take that step and counter rotate the hips. Finish. That's not that hard. What is hard is dealing with this dialogue that's going on in our minds that creates a separation, mind-body, or the tendency to fall into a role. Nage, uchi. And this blurs them. Okay? And that is, there's kind of a healthy uncertainty that you learn to stand in. Okay? Which is different than I know it. Yeah. It's a healthy uncertainty. You're flexible. You're not a machine. The same things don't always set you off in the same ways. You can look at things from a perspective. You can assess situations first. I won. I suck. Then you're in there is the truth. And if we get a glimmer of it, we're on the right path. Okay? Okay, so let's go one more time. The shomen, uchi, irimi, nage, initiating first. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's just that we create so many other thoughts about it that we don't clearly enough to get that mind-body connection. So the intention behind the mind-body unity can go out there. You see what I mean? That's what's hard. Yeah, the actual movement itself is pretty stark. But we have so many other habits, right? You know, there's a story I thought was really funny was Pat Riley. Before he was a coach, he was a social player for the Lakers. Yeah. And so one game, they call a timeout. And the then Laker coach tells everybody, get the ball to Jerry West. Get the ball to Jerry. And so what happens is, you know, it's the last play of the game. And so Pat Riley looks at Jerry and they're triple teaming him. And he takes the shot and misses, and the Lakers lose. And so afterwards in the locker room, the coach says, I told you to get the ball to Jerry. And he said, but they triple teamed him. So I had an easy shot. He said, that's what they wanted you to do. They didn't want Jerry to touch the ball. Next time, get the ball to Jerry. Or get the ball to Seth. Right? So, you know, there's that area right there where, yeah, the world would play games with you. So, but you keep your, I mean, you know, it's not like Jerry West or Stephen Curry ripping the suits, but hey, you know, yeah, get the ball to that person. Even if they're triple teaming them. Why? Because they're triple teaming them because they want you to do what you just did, which is take that shot. You are not going to make that shot. Jerry would not miss. You see, even if he's triple team, it's crazy. Yeah. But you know, everything is reduced. It's not like get the ball back to Steph. It's the mantra of the universe. It's just that okay, we're working towards the unity, right? And there's so much junk in our head, you know. And then when all of a sudden it goes to here, and we're confused, we're indecisive, you see what I mean? And so, given all that, you know, it's quite a challenge. I mean, the thing is very simple. Yeah, anyway, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, instead of dealing with this rush, if he's going to rush at me, boom, you're going to rush at me. Okay, that's going to be a lot. You're going to rush at me. I don't want jihad. If I'm in jihad, there's a bunch of fanatics that want to die. Yeah, you see what I mean? With the glory of whatever it is. I'm in a stupid situation that I let get way out of control, and I didn't take responsibility for it. It's entertaining. If you think you're going to go to some paradise, yeah, that's fine. But on the other hand, it doesn't make the world any better. I doubt it. So, you know, if he's going to rush at me, boom. Boom. If he's going to rush at me, okay. When he's thinking about it, let's just kind of start the negotiations right there. It's a little different, right? A little different. You see what I mean? The way we think, we fall into roles very quickly. And this, I think I sent you like this because it's totally opposite the way people think, right? But guess what? That's probably him. Peace is better than war. Win-win is better than I win. You know? Creating a heaven on earth is good for everybody. You know, love should be the basis of all interactions. The thing is to realize that's great stuff. Except here we are with our everyday mind program, way away from that. You see what I mean? And so it's a start thing. It's like, okay, you I mean, it's entertainment. Somebody charge you and then you win, but right? Yeah, one of your kids says, I want to try drugs. Then you say, well, let's discuss this further. And there are certain things you can't do, right? I just remember somebody, for whatever reason, the conversation was around some of my daughter's high school people. She wasn't there. And the whole topic of drugs, came up, right? And so one of them looked at me and said, Mr. Wada, Jenny doesn't do drugs. And I said, I didn't think she would. It wasn't an issue. Yeah, I know my daughter. She's raised in an aikido school. Kind of a crazy girl. But I'm not surprised she doesn't do drugs. They were discussing the whole drug issue. And I was there as the odd parent. And Mr. Wada, Jenny doesn't do drugs. I'm not surprised. Thank you. Yeah. You put something out. You put some love out.
Right.
You have a connection. So that part of it, it's like don't. By the time it's a full-blown problem, you got a problem. Then it's like parenting becomes a huge. Holy crap! What went on? Well, yeah. So anyway, so don't and just experiment with it. Be able to diffuse something with some humor. Sometimes right when all of this and we weren't going to do it, but in Cuba, we really felt like giving up or, splitting our wrists because things got too crazy. Benjamin says they would crack us up. He would diffuse the whole thing with humor. He would just crack us up. Then we go, when you start thinking doomsday, gallows, too much, he'd just come in there and he would kind of like, okay, if you go that way, then da-da-da-da, we went, it's funny. That was icy. So when my mom, I guess after dying of cancer, I don't have that anymore, unfortunately, but I would crack her up. And nobody understood how I could do that, but, it was something I got from coaching business. And when things get really bad, you're able to just sort of diffuse it. I didn't cure her, but how do you do that? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's so serious right here, but on the other hand, it's like, if she laughs, it's helping her system. It's not going to cure her, but on the other hand, it makes your life right this moment kind of bright, right? So that area of that is kind of piercing in a certain way. And you don't want, it's like a Star Wars movie. The Federation that's just going to win. It's just Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon. Okay, kid, blow this thing and we'll get back there and get our parade. That sort of thing. It's the point where that's why there were good films like that, because the darkness there, and all of a sudden, okay, kid, you didn't expect me to come back for you. I covered your back. I go blow this thing. And it was a metaphor, but it was kind of beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So the thing about the aikido is we're basically doing the same thing. In terms of what's the shomen, uchi, ikkyo, shomen, uchi, irimi, nage. But when we role reverse, in other words, instead of waiting for the attack, you initiate, you advance first. That was the number one teaching that Hikazuchi Sensei that he learned from Mo Sensei. You offer the risk. You don't, the risk is taken now. And because what happens is we get caught up in forms. And not just ikkyo, nikyo, sanso, but we ourselves are trapped within forms of behavior. You see? And the Aikido is more about what you call the enlightenment, which means you're seeing past the forms, both, the Aikido technique, but also the roles we adapt within that. And the actual progression is that we want the mind to be increasingly clear. We want the body to move fluidly as the mind dictates. But there's something called intention spirit, which really ignites it. And so the Aiki is an intention. And, the sense was you don't wait, you advance first. It doesn't mean you stick your fingers in somebody's eye, but you, one time, Robert Koga was teaching a group of police officers, and he was teaching them, get off the line, right? And so somebody said, well, the old what if question, well, what if somebody knows you're going to do that, and they're going to nail you as you get off the line? So he gets this guy out there, and what happens, he says, okay, and the guy is getting ready to hit him when he moves off the line. So Koga Sensei just throws a punch at his face. The guy blocks it. He moves here, throws him with an irimi technique. This was something he said, well, you asked. And I said, and I told him afterwards, I said, where I trained in Japan, that was the way we trained. But he said, yeah, if you know somebody he knows what you're going to do, right? I mean, in police work, getting off the line is a good thing, but in certain situations, somebody reads that. They know you always go that way. All right? Oh, somebody just gets off the line. Okay. So Koga Sensei initiated the movement, which was what looked like a strike. And the guy went like this, and he was behind him, he had him down. So, that area, I thought, that's interesting. Because, when you're showing the weight all the time, yeah, you get better at the technique. But we polarize into roles. Uchi, nage are very, very important roles to learn. But sometimes when you blur them, in some sense, the ability to move and intuit the situation doesn't come from my conscious mind. It's more something I learned being uchi. Oh, I raise my hand, right? And then I'm a part of the technique. I raise my hand. But then in another situation, I extend first. As uchi learns to raise your hand to cover the opening, so does nage learn to extend first. You see what I mean? So there are roles there, but they're so radically different from the standard Aikido role and terminology. And why does that exist? Because it's easier to teach. Wait for this, blend, do this. This is still a blend. You see what I mean? You're blending, basically you're putting your intention out to try to save the process where there is a blend. The win-win is we're both part of a blend. We're both part of a harmony. There's no winner because we both win. And if that particular philosophy was taken out into the world better, the world would be better. We wouldn't have all this craziness. But the way Sensei put it, it makes the world better bit by bit. And we're the bit. Okay? And the Do Sensei sense is that, he'd try to say, you're working not on the technique, the body of material, you're working on self. You're transparent. But the transparency allows you to see possibilities that you can't see when you're locked into certain roles. You see what I mean? Roles become too strong. And we're still uchi, we're still nage, but it changes things where the emphasis shifts not so much on the form, but on the self, which is clear. And intention comes to self. And then the mind's integrated and calm. It goes into the mind. And then the mind educates your body to move, and you have a winning system. And you're also working with your partner. They're included in that win-win. That's the uchi. And there are martial points in that where you don't want to be wide open trying to do that. So we show you, give a couple of adjustments in the movement. The movements are not that hard. What is hard is rewiring this. Rewiring what we call I. That is constant. That's what Superman calls a never-ending battle. Although it's not just for truth, justice, it's really kind of finding ourselves. Okay? All right. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we do have the cleaning, so I think we're getting better at it. So I tend to be the last one out, so I kind of get all the switches and make sure that it's disinfected and everything. But a week from today,